Well, hello there. My name is Beth Gaff, and I am the systems manager, robotics instructor, and technology trainer here at the Peabody Public Library. Welcome back to another session of virtual field trips and visits. Today, we are going to be talking about the history of music. This was a streamed field trip that was supposed to happen back in March. However, we were having issues with our website. So we have been working on that. So this was scheduled for April. So now it was a reschedule that we're doing now in May. I will have a lot of lessons and curriculum plans for you as part of the virtual field trip. So make sure that you take a look at some of those. I also will have this link available to you to either follow along with me or you can explore it on your own. Today, we're going to look at the timeline of music and also kind of listen to some of the examples and kind of where we are today in comparison to that. So, this is the history of music. Music really has come a long way in the last 1,000 years or so, and I'm going to tell you how. And so we're going to be exploring medieval, Renaissance, Baroque, classical, Romantic, and even into all the way up to the 21st century. So here is our timeline. The medieval, this, though we can assume that music began far before 1150, the medieval period is the first in which we can be sure as to how music sounded during this time. Most notated manuscripts from the medieval period came from the church or places connected to the church, and so most pieces have a religious subject. So during this era, it was all about the church. The church allowed what learning you could do and so forth. Everything had to be praised through God, and that's how they viewed it. Instruments used during this time would include a flute, a recorder, stringed instruments, an organ, a fiddle. Let's listen to some of that. So this is the monophonic style during the medieval period. It's important to note that the polyphonic vocal genres are also developed during this time. So there's a lot of multiple independent voice types. So now you can hear those different voices. Definitely want to explore that a little bit more and listen to that. But this was all religious based for the most part. It can be concluded that the introduction of harmony began in this medieval period as well. So let's move on to the Renaissance period, which was between 1400 and 1600. I do have different PowerPoints available for this as well. This is going to be a pretty big virtual field trip just because there is a lot of music genres out there and there is a lot of exploring that can be done with those genres. So the Renaissance was the golden age for choral composition, cappella compositions. Religious music continued to flourish throughout the entire Renaissance period, including new forms such as masses, anthems, psalms. Some composers of sacred music began to adopt secular forms towards the end of the period. So let's take a minute just to kind of listen to this. instrumentation became more prominent during this period. So you'd have early brass instruments such as your trumpet, your cornet, valveless trumpets, strings, guitars, bells, tambourines, bagpipes, flutes. I mean, a lot of your earlier recorded ones would be there as well. So that would be your Renaissance period. Strong sensation of each piece having a definitely tonal center or key became commonplace in the Renaissance period. The Baroque period was 1600 to 1750. So this expanded upon the end of the Renaissance period. This was a creation of writing music in particular keys, commonly known for complex pieces, harmonies, for over 300 years. So let's listen to a piece of that. So already, just by doing this, you can clearly see all the changes that have been. Now they're adding in bassoons, cellos, oboes, pianos, violins, more woodwinds. So we went from everything just being vocal songs, religious wise, to harmonies and harmonizing, to now expanding on the actual instrument types that we are using. So these are just some of the earlier clips of that. I would definitely encourage you to go out on a whim here and listen to more of these, critique these. Uh, some of this music is quite elegant and it actually sounds quite amazing. So I believe that this would not be a waste of anybody's time to kind of go out on a whim. And I'll show you that timeline again before we're done with listening to different pieces today. And I also want to go through some of the lesson and curriculum plans that I have for you. So that was so then you get into your classical period, which is 1750 to 1820. The classical music does have two meanings. So it's a broader meaning, includes of Western art music from the medieval era to the 2000s. The specific meaning refers to the music from the 1750s to the early 1820s. So part of this is discussing the specific meaning in this section. So the classical period is most known for its compulsion for structural clarity of music. And I believe they're including that with I'm just kind of seeing where we're at. Okay. So let's take a listen. Mozart. I think we all kind of know this song a little. So most of your romantic period, which we'll talk about in a second, but your classicals, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I mean, a lot of this stuff on here is clickable. Let me mute this. So we could click on this and it would take us into a lot of his different songs. Beethoven, again, these are different composers during that era. And then we have the Romantic period between 1820 and 1900. This was the golden age. Most difficult music would be performed. Chopin. Simply Elegant. I could listen to this all day. I'm a sucker for classical. So 20th century and 21st century would be 1900 to current. So here are some of those smaller periods broken down: the Impressionists, the Expressionists, the Modern, Postmodern, and then you've got Contemporary. These subgenres are normally lumped into one large category, just so you know. Let's listen to that. Debussy. So there is a lot of different kinds of music. Let's look at music theory. So they have a lot of different, looks like there's a lot of tips of music theory in here. How to read music. So there's a lot of stuff you could do here as well. OMG, 12 songs from popular musicals. Let's look at that. So these are some of the sheet music that you could purchase to play. So this is Forget About the Boy.
New York City is always changing, but drum machine marches.
Here we go.
Sincere trust. Jimmy, leave me alone. Personal matter.
Not on company time!
I didn't ask him to call. I don't want him to call. I never want to see Jimmy Smith again.
Good. Forget the boys, Delmount. Get yourself a canary.
No canary in a cage for me. This canary's ready to fly free. Cut the cord. Is that a man I once adored? He's nothing but an albatross. No great loss. Double crosser. Forget about.
Okay, so these are some of the musicals that are out here. You could even download the sheet music. Let's do a Defying Gravity.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late.
Let's see. Run, Freedom, Run. Just kind of fast.
You're in town. The place is with symbolism and.
Guess you don't want to overload them with too much exposition, huh?
No, everything in its time.
How about bad subject matter?
I imagine. Enjoy the show.
Freedom run away.
Let's see if there's any on here. Too Beautiful for Words from The Color Purple.
I've seen this life from high and low and all that's in between. I've danced with dudes, crooned with counts, been courted like a queen. But when I see what's in your heart, all the rest is blurred. The grace you bring into this world to view.
So, not sure if I know a lot of these, but you could go through and listen to some of the Broadway, different kinds of musical plays, and you could even kind of do that in a comparison to some of those some of those genres that we had been looking at. Musical theater, musicals based on books and films. Not sure I know very many of these either. There really is just so much that is involved in actual music and what you have to do. Um, to be successful in it. So I will definitely be sharing this website with you because I feel like there's a lot of information on here that could be very beneficial. And you would be able to see some of those timelines as well. Let me see if I can get us back to that timeline. So here's that timeline again, and where we are and where we fit in. I am now going to show you um, some of the stuff I have for you. So I do have the 1960s music history. So that's what this would be all about, and I'll make sure to include that with your items. I have a Beatles information that comes with a quiz sheet, so I will be including that for you as well. This is the quiz sheet that goes with that. Oops. I'm just pushing all kinds of buttons here. All right. The radio. So let's talk about that. So music history that involves the radio. So how did the radio even become an item when it comes to music history? So this, although it says grade 6, this is still giving you the history of music. And I will definitely include this. So before the late 1800s, there were no radios, record players, MP3s, TVs, CDs, video games, internet, or computers. Can you believe it? That there was a world without it. If you wanted to hear music, you had to go to a concert or play music yourself. Then in 1877, the great inventor Thomas Edison invented the phonograph, which was the beginning of a record player. Also in 1894, Mr. Marconi built the first real radio. All of a sudden, people could turn a button and hear music anytime they wanted. For the first time in history, radios work by emitting radio waves in the air. These waves are caught by antennas on the road and translated back into sound. Many people contributed to the beginning of the radio. The main inventors were Mr. Hertz, Mr. Tesla, and Mr. Marconi. In 1929, after World War I, the whole world was plunged into a Great Depression. People lost their jobs, had no money, and could barely find food to feed their families. The Great Depression lasted from about 1929 to 1941. It was a very difficult time. People were so hungry and poor that it was almost impossible for them to be joyful. One of the things that didn't cost any money was turning on the radio. The music on the radio really helped people keep going. They listened to songs like Life is Just a Bowl of Cherries, We're in the Money, Brother Can You Spare a Dime, and Ain't We Got Fun. This is also the time that the styles of music called jazz and swing became very popular. So during World War II, 1939 through 1945, families were separated because so many men went to war. People were very worried about their loved ones. So by 1940, 80% of the people in North America had radios. They listened to songs by Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Bing Crosby. Jazz and swing were still very popular. Their upbeat styles really helped keep people feeling better and to forget about their troubles. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, rock and roll was born. By this time, millions of people around the world listened to the radio and heard rock and roll for the first time. It became so popular that it even turned the musicians into major stars. One of the first two rock and roll stars was Elvis Presley. Elvis had many number one hits, including Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Suede Shoes, Let Me Tender, Jailhouse Rock, Hound Dog, and much more. Also during that time, electric guitars, microphones, drum sets, and records became very popular. On the radio, you had to wait until the radio played your favorite song to hear it, But now you could buy a record of your favorite song and listen to it whenever you wanted. On the radio, however, it was still free to listen to music. In England in 1960, the band The Beatles was formed. Its members were Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. In part because of the radio, they had so many number one hits that they are in the Guinness Book of World Records. Here are a few. Here are a few. All You Need Is Love, Yellow Submarine, Blackbird, Come Together, Eleanor Rigby, A Hard Day's Night, Here Comes the Sun, Lady Madonna, Love Me Do, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields, and this is only to name a few. Of course, we still listen to radio today, and it has been and continues to be an important influence in our lives. And then, of course, there would be a quiz affiliated with that. But that's just a little bit of radio history. Here's also a worksheet. Music has been around for many years. So this one allows you to kind of listen to some music and critique it. I've got PowerPoints and games all affiliated with our field trip today. And notes. Oops, that is not the notes we wanted. There we go. So this little packet just has a bunch of notes, which I am now going to save as a PDF. There we go. Perfect. All right, so this was all about music history. As you can see, we've really evolved from what was considered a medieval times up through current. Hopefully this helps you out. I'm going to include all of this information. Feel free to make your own lesson plan in regards to the history of music. I've got packets and all kinds of items for you to explore with. So I'd really love to hear any kind of critiquing that you've done. So you could always get a hold of me. All of my information was on the very first slide before we started the class today. So I'm looking forward in all of us doing some of this stuff. I mean, there's some really, really cool ideas and activities that are involved with this. So have fun dealing with music. Have fun listening to all of the different eras and genres compared to what we're dealing with now. Thank you so much for being a part of today's virtual field trip. Most of our field trips are very brief. I just want to go through them briefly with you and allow you the time that it takes to get in there and dig, dive, and research. So thanks so much. Can't wait for the next one, guys. Bye-bye.